Hi there Pokefans, I am your humble host Charles Fan and you're watching Pokemon Gym Challenges. And today we are going to take on Winona. Let's see how this goes. This is a very nicely designed gym for me. I like the puzzle and I like these fans that are behind her. For me she is much better than Scarlet in, I think it's Scarlet. No, Scarlet is the new Pokemon game. To me, she is much better than Skylar. Well, Skylar's first gym is for me much more fun to traverse. Skylar's second gym is a piece of crap in my opinion. I hate trying to traverse that one. But this gym puzzle over here is also quite fun for me to traverse. And first up we are facing Swallow. So we're going to Mega Evolve immediately. And we're going to try and take out all of the Pokemon with a Rock Slide or something like that. And that is the main plan at the moment. Trying to take out all of the Pokemon, including the last legendary, with Rock Slide. And she has a Steel type in there as well, in Skarmory, who's going to both be weak to Rock Slide and resist it at the same time. That is kind of a contradiction over there. But that is how things are at the moment. So while I'm thinking about it, I was browsing the Violet and Scarlet Pokédex again, and I've been looking at some of the people who have been playing the game, and I have found a lot of issues. I'm not going to discuss all of those issues over there. Those are specific YouTubers that are playing the game will explain to you what they have found wrong. The things I found good about it is that at least there is a new fish legendary. Unfortunately there aren't any fish starters that I can think of. I do have a poll in my community tab. Please consider checking that out and voting on the options I give there, because at some stage when I'm finished with all of these typings I'm going to start themed playthroughs, and one of those themes I want to study or investigate is trying to specialize in fish Pokemon. But in order to do that I either need to have a fish starter, or I need to get a rod as quickly as possible and catch a fish. Anyway, before I go on with that topic, let's check out this fight against Skarmory as I was discussing it just a second ago. I'm using Ice Punch against this Skarmory, and it is in a similar situation where it is both strong and weak to it. But this fight went quite well actually. I'm quite happy about how this went. I thought I was going to use a Rock Slide exclusively, but I didn't, and it seems like I won this battle quite handily. Anyway, I was saying that as far as I know there aren't any physical fish starters, and there aren't actual fish that have a 3-stage evolutionary line. I may be wrong on that point, so please leave a comment in the comment section below to educate me on that matter. So after this battle, as we have won over here, all of this story stuff is going to start happening again, and I actually like this formula much more than the later generations. In the later generations, specifically Black and White and the whole Sword and Shield games, they brought in the story elements right at the final battle. Now that is not something I am very fond of, because in those circumstances you don't actually get to spend any time with your legendary, so you don't actually know if it's good or bad, and you don't actually get to know anything about that legendary unless you play the post game. Now to me the game should end at the Pokemon League, and all of the post game content should be part of the story. Anyway, let's go on with some story elements, or some of the story elements. So in my investigations I've also discovered that specializing in snails is becoming more and more viable. Granted, we don't actually have a physical starter for a snail, but the Gumi line could serve as your starter. Granted, it is a dragon type, but the early dragon, the first evolution dragon, is always fairly weak. So Gumi should serve as a very good starter for specializing in snail Pokemon. And then we have the fossil Pokemon, Monotype and Omastar. After that you have Slugma and Macargo. And then we have the legendary Pokemon Wo-Chien. Now Wo-Chien is kind of disappointing because it is a grass and dark type, but it is supposed to be a legendary Pokemon, and yet it only has 570 base points. The other dark and grass legendary, Zoruda, has 600 base points. So make of that what you will. Nonetheless, we have at least 1, 2, 3, 4 definite snail Pokemon, and if we employ some bendy thinking, we could argue that Muk could also be a snail or a slug type Pokemon. So that is what I have to say about that. So let's see how we fare in this battle that we have just started over here. We beat Goldeen quite handily with our Pelipper. And we grow to level 32. And she sends out Seeking. I know Seeking's and Goldeen's base points aren't that high, but I'd love to use them at some stage. Maybe I'll have to do a Nuzlocke type playthrough in which I use all the fish Pokemon, and if they die they're dead, and if they survive they can go all the way to the Elite 4. That way I could go through all of the fish Pokemon that I can get my hands on, and maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. Or maybe one of you guys, one of my viewers, can try that and put it on one of your own videos. Or you can get a more popular YouTuber, maybe a Nuzlocking YouTuber, to try that. That might make some interesting content. And I desperately need a Leaf Stone in order to evolve my Lombre into Ludicolo. Groudon needs a little bit of experience. Now I'm glad in the one hand that I used Groudon in this playthrough. It just tells me how bad Groudon actually is. And you might tell me that he's not that bad, he does all of this and this in the competitive scene. But in this playthrough, Groudon is one of my most useless Pokemon. You will see as the game progresses that it does less and less in this game playthrough, especially when I start battling the Elite 4 and the Champion. Groudon hardly does anything except provide a pivot. And you don't need a pivot in my style of game because I could revive all of my Pokemon as I see fit, provided I have enough revives and full restores, or full revives, or a revival herb. So for Groudon to serve only as a pivot is kind of useless in my opinion. When I say it only serves as a pivot, is I switch him in to do a very specific job, because he is a dark and a water type, and then he dies in a single attack. Now he's supposed to be much stronger than a Sharpedo. Not Mega Sharpedo. I think I've hammered that into the ground quite deep enough. But I was kind of disappointed by the end of this playthrough as to how bad Corphish or Crawdaunt actually turned out to be. So if you go back to the anime, Corphish and Crawdaunt is probably one of Ash's weakest Pokemon. Okay, let's see what Crawdaunt does against this Swellow. At least it hits the Bubble Beam and does quite a decent amount of damage. And he misses the next Bubble Beam. Come on Crawdaunt, just hit the bloody Bubble Beam. Okay, at least he does that. Okay, next up is Zatu. Now this is actually what Crawdaunt is in my squad for, to take down Psychic and Ghost type Pokemon. I don't expect him to do very much against Bug type Pokemon, seeing as he has quite a severe weakness. I do give him some attacks that try and mitigate that, but I neglected to take into account how slow Crawdaunt actually is. And that is part of the issue I have with him. Sharpedo would have been a much better Pokemon even though he can't Mega Evolve in this game. But I know that subsequently, not at the time I was playing. That is the point of this game, of playing it like this. Doing playthroughs with a specific type. You get an understanding of the type in general, and you get a feeling, understanding for the specific Pokemon that you choose to take through. I don't feel that you get that level of understanding in a Nuzlocke. All you know is you have a very decent Pokemon and oh damn, he's dead. You didn't actually get to study it quite deeply enough, in my opinion. Now it's quite fun watching Nuzlockes, seeing all the emotions of their players as they play through the game and get frustrated and sad and all of those things. But I don't form that level of emotional attachment to my pixels that are dancing around on my screen, because they're only pixels. I do get frustrated when Orangey goes against me and I can't actually manage to accomplish what I tell it to do. But that is part of the game, and that is fun. The frustration is fun, but I don't form that emotional attachment to my Pokemon at all. So for me, playing a Nuzlocke I'd lose every single one of them, probably, because I don't actually care if they die or not. I care for getting through the game, so that might prompt me to play more carefully. But yeah, I am not all that interested in Nuzlocke type, even though it is the most popular thing on the YouTube Pokemon scene at the moment, and it will probably send my views up to who knows how many thousand. But I'm having fun as it is, and the 10 of you that enjoy watching me, I'm very glad that you enjoy watching it. But if it stays at 10 for the rest of my life, I'll just have to remain in my parents' basement for the rest of my life. And that's that. Hopefully I can think up enough of this kind of content to get through the rest of my life. And hopefully the Pokemon Company and Game Freak gets decent games and decent Pokemon in the future iterations. And the worst thing I think they did They say they have decent reasoning for it, but in my opinion it's garbage reasoning, was the whole Dexit thing that they did. Because in order to do a playthrough like this one, where I specialize in a specific type, or I consider a specific theme, I need the entire Pokédex at my disposal. So in future runs, I'm starting to consider trying ROM hacks and even learning to do my own ROM hack in order to get the Pokemon into the game that I need to be in the game. For instance, here's an easy one. You remember a few episodes back I was talking about specializing in spiders, and I was lamenting the fact that you don't get a Rayados and that water spider in the same game. I can't remember this water spider's name. I think it's Arachnid or some form of aqua and spider combined. I don't know his name because I've never used him before, because I haven't played a game in which he is prominent yet. Anyway, I discovered that the whole Circuit or Surskit and Masquerain line, they have exactly the same stats as that specific spider. So if I changed Surskit with that spider in a ROM hack that I did myself, if I just replaced those two, it wouldn't change anything of the game itself, and the only thing I'll lose is the Bubblehead ability, which increases the power of Bubble Beam in weather conditions, namely rain, specifically the rain weather condition, which isn't too much of a loss, I think. Please leave a comment in the comment section below if you have anything to add to this specific conversation. Okay, let's try and sneak by this guy. Luckily he's not a swiveling guy. Oh, that was a swiveling chick over there. Luckily I got by her without her having seen me. Okay, this is Ghost Girl. Okay, I get past over there. Okay, ooh, I get past over there, that girl as well. If she was not a swiveling girl, I would not have gotten past over there. That detracts from the game a little bit, making her a swiveling character. It makes it fun to try and dodge them, but I'm actually dodging all of these characters to my own detriment, because I could use the experience later on and not have to grind as much to get to the level caps I want to be at. And generally I want to be at a higher level cap than my opponents, which is contrary to the whole Nuzlocking theme. Anyway, this is going to be the end of this episode. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed these discussions. Thank you and goodbye.